Good morning, everybody. My name is Gabriel Bowman, and today I want to talk a little bit about reframing masculinity and exploring some of the most positive masculine traits. I think one of the most interesting things about masculinity in today's day and age is that it's not very welcomed, and in fact it's quite frowned upon. You can look at masculinity in so many different lights. Ultimately, I mean, let's start by looking at companies like Bud Light. I've never ever purchased from Bud Light. I do not drink. I do not condone drinking. But I mean, let's talk about it. Or talk about Ford too. We could talk about Gillette. In fact, let's start with Gillette. Several years ago, Gillette had come out with an advertisement essentially telling men that it was okay to cry, that they should stop being, you know, I don't know, stop being so manly, and talking about how that there's this culture essentially saying that men are bad people for being naturally men. Some of those traits that you might look at that people say are toxic masculine traits are simply going to be things like, I don't know, I had one of my friends, actually, he went on a date and this girl completely disliked him because he goes to the gym and he likes self-improvement, and he's just like, why is that not okay, you know? Very simply, she just thought it was too masculine. There was a recent The Button video, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. It's a dating show where they hit a button, whatever. You can go look it up if you want. Don't recommend it. It's a waste of time, let's just put it that way. I remember this guy comes in, he's super muscular, he's got a big old beard, he's I can't remember, he worked in some sort of labor force, and she, again, said he was too masculine. And that is exactly why she hit the button and kicked him out. But it is important that every structure, including the family structure, has a structure of leadership. You know, of course, the mom also being part of that leadership, right? You know, I mean, you have to take care of your family together. That's the only way things work. But men have a huge role. Let's look at some of the statistics, right? I believe it's somewhere in the 80s. I think it's like 85, 82, 87, I can't remember. But it's within the 80 range. 80% of prisoners in U.S. prisons today grew up without fathers. The past several mass shooters, and you know, I have to be careful about saying this because you could be attacked for this. I mean, you're exposing something that clearly has been designed and organized by the government. I'm only 22 years old and I'm young enough to see that there's a pattern here, right? Every single one of them has been gay, lesbian, transgender, right? And of course, with exception to a few, right? But for the most part, I'd say the statistics are probably pretty similar. 80% grew up without fathers. It is no coincidence that there's a stereotype that these girls with daddy issues, you know, are also whores, hookers, and prostitutes. And if you ask men, there are men with daddy issues as well. We can look at statistics all day, but what's most important is let's look at these traits that make men positive figures. Let's look at that, because nobody ever looks at that. Nobody ever talks about that. The first one, of course, is diligence. You could look at the different Christ-like attributes. The attributes that Christ had were very simply, he was humble, he was definitely bold. Talk about when he went through the temple, flipping over the tables, kicking out the merchants, you know, with his righteous whip, you know, proved a lot about what a man is. Another Christ-like attribute is faith, which is kind of funny because is faith required of a man who knows God lives? I think faith is required. He had to be the perfect example, so why wouldn't he have faith? Knowledge, patience. I mean, we could go on all day. These are attributes that everyone needs as human beings. For men, you know, there's gonna be extensions to some of those things. When I think about diligence, I think of kind of that phrase, you know, when you fall off the horse, what do? You get back up, right? Diligence is huge for men. You cannot be a father if you are not diligent, right? If you fall off the horse and you never get back up every single time, you just keep falling off the horse, right? You keep failing over and over again, and you never do anything to change any of that. I mean, your family's going to collapse. It's going to crush under that pressure, the pressure in which you were supposed to resolve. Say this. You are trying to quit an addiction, right? Which, you know, is who I'm trying to market to with some of these videos, right? So you're trying to quit an addiction. you are struggling with smoking cigarettes or watching pornography or drinking alcohol. And finally you go like 3 days. This is like the longest you've ever gone without using these substances or doing these certain behaviors, right? Participating in these behaviors. And very simply, suddenly one day out of nowhere you have a moment of weakness and you fall back down. You have two options: mope around and label yourself as I'm a bad person, I'm evil, I keep doing these things, I don't think I'm ever going to get better. I mean, those things disable you from being able to grow and, again, bounce back. But on the other hand, you say, no, I'm a good person, I'm trying my very hardest, I'm going to try again, and I'm going to do it better this time. Everything's a process. Resilience wouldn't exist if that wasn't the case. First and foremost, be resilient, be bendable, be able to come back and try again and do better. I mean, that's how millionaires, that's how leaders, that's how some of the greatest people on earth got their start, was just trying again, even though they had failed hundreds and hundreds of times. I think the next really big thing, I guess there's so many different words for it. I struggle to really put one label down, but I guess responsibility and accountability, you can put those two together, because accountability is one of the greatest traits in being a leader, and responsibility is also one of the greatest traits in being a leader. I mean, those goes hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. Nor can you have a leader with just one of those. I don't think that really works the same way, right? Being responsible is also holding yourself accountable for some of those things. It kind of goes back into what we talked about with resilience. Keeping yourself accountable. I mean, I'm going to make sure that I accomplish this today, and this, right? I mean, if you don't do those things, I mean, you aren't really keeping yourself accountable. Therefore, you aren't really responsible for you. But I mean, if we go into deeper things, a man must be responsible for his own actions. Again, this could also go along with being honest. Say you messed up at work, right? You made a huge mistake. You knew you weren't supposed to do that, right? But you did it. And your boss comes, and it is, honestly, it's going to be a scary experience, I mean, there's no lie. I mean, you'd probably be really scared. And your boss comes and is like, hey, you've screwed this company over. You did the number one thing you weren't supposed to do. Say maybe you probably did it by accident, right? Everybody makes mistakes. Ultimately, you have to come down to this point. You have an opportunity maybe to blame it on someone else. But instead, because you're a man, you're responsible for your own actions. You accept the consequences. You accept that, I'm not perfect, and you tell your boss. Of course, your boss is going to be mad. He's gonna be throwing a temper tantrum with you right there, right? There's no use in lying to yourself or to someone else. Be honest. It does no good to lie to yourself. So yes, be responsible for your own actions. Be a good person and be honest, right? If you want to learn how to become a better leader, learn to set goals with people and then hold them accountable for it, right? So that's the number 2 thing. So number three. This one's a little bit could be confused. Let me just put it this way. You can be masculine, and when you're having a really bad day and you want to cry, you want to go and complain, you want to go and just say, why me, right? But you've got to be strong enough when you're around your wife or your kids not to do that, because as a man, as a leader, your whole entire goal is to improve the lives of those you're around, those you are taking care of. You are taking care of your wife. You're trying to make sure that everything in her life goes to plan, and you're trying to be supportive in everything. But if you're going to have a hard time, you're going to start crying and throwing a tantrum, you're gonna just lose your emotions right there in front of everybody. Essentially, you are taking your family through that trial with you, and you're making their life just a little bit more hard. Don't suppress those emotions, but go in a private place. And this is where, I mean, if you don't believe in God, you are gonna be stuck as a man. Because as a man, you can go to a private place, turn to your closet, and you can cry in private. Go in your car and just go for a drive and just pray, cry out to God, and and ask him for help. I mean, that's going to be your #1 tool as a man. That was kind of an in-between. I mean, you could say that that's number 3. But what goes along with that perfectly, what I had planned, is having emotional empathy for those that you see. You know what I mean? When someone else is going through a hard time, be strong enough to recognize that you've been through hard things too, and go and stand by their side and help them too. The 4th thing, you know, and I could go on and talk about 100 other things, really does have to go in with what I just talked about, and that is protectiveness and caring for others. It's the same thing as, like, I'm not gonna go and, you know, start crying to my wife and kids. I'm not married yet, by the way, but I mean, these are points that are just hardwired into us men. I think men have a very natural instinct to care. I once heard a guy say that being a father is one of the most thankless jobs. I was literally sitting with him and I watched him. I can't remember what it was because it was just barely long enough ago, and he had done something for his daughter and he was telling us about it. And in that moment, it had been proven to us. His daughter goes, sees the thing, says, "Thank you, Mom, thank you so much." You know, she's all grateful and excited. That's when he turned to us and he said that exact quote. Being a father is a thankless job. I'm gonna care enough for my wife and my kids one day. Care enough that I won't need to thank you. I'm gonna do everything in private. It's another piece of humility, because all those Christ-like attributes just align perfectly with all these, right? But again, these are things to expound upon that are specifically for men. But also, when someone breaks into your house, or when your kids are being bullied, be strong enough and be man enough to confront those problems head on and shut them down. But at the same time, when your kids are going through something hard, help them just enough, but let them experience some of that on their own, because how else are they going to be good people? How else are they going to grow? That was one of those things that was taught to me when I was taken into leadership as a missionary. There's all these courses and things that you have to do, that you learn about in being a leader. These are some of the things that I took and have really impacted the way I do everything now. And so, I mean, definitely go and look at those things, be a caretaker, and be a man. Hopefully these points have helped you today, and I'm excited to see what happens. Let me know if you guys want to see more videos like this. My name is Gabriel Bowman. Please like, comment, subscribe if you liked the video, and I'll see you guys in another video.